This is You've Already Been Hacked, recorded on 1 August 2025. Welcome back to You've Already Been Hacked. This week we got 5 stories for you. Some with a little humor, I think, involved. But Cowboy, how are you this Friday?
Good evening. I do enjoy Friday. I have my digital whiskey, as always.
Okay. Your digital whiskey. Oh, I was gonna say locked you up, but I think we're good.
All right.
Okay. So let's get right into the news this week. Our top story: Mailchimp targeted in a ransomware attack, and the data exposure has been downplayed. Mailchimp is a popular email marketing platform, and it was reportedly hit by a ransomware attack this week. While the company claims the exposed data was significant, security experts are, shall we say, skeptical, citing the potential for phishing, credential stuffing, and downstream abuse of marketing lists. This matters because Mailchimp is deeply integrated into thousands of businesses' customer outreach workflows. Even a limited data exposure breach here can lead to impersonation, targeted phishing, and reputation damage. The incident also raises questions about the transparency and breach disclosure practices. So, yeah, Mailchimp, I've heard about them for a while. They definitely are. You'll see their logo on the bottom of a bunch of mass mailers and stuff like that. Not spam, really, although sure, but legitimate business marketing or business comms or something like that. So, yeah, any amount of data that could have been lifted off of them could have been a problem. Cowboy, what do you got for us?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna open with the first thing I thought of when I see their little chimp is the movie Super Troopers, right? With the chimp on the marijuana. It just looks eerily similar. I don't know. Maybe that's reaching there too much, but yeah. So they got hit with some Everest ransomware. They are a Russian linked group. Surprise, surprise. But it's kind of funny because while they claim to have gotten about just shy of 800 megabytes of data, the community kind of blew it off and really almost kind of mocked how small of a data byte that is, which I kind of thought was interesting. So,
Yeah, but you know what? If we're talking like text or database files, for just raw like textual based data, which most of this, it wouldn't be that large, and it could still be very significant. 800 megabytes of text, 800 megabytes in a database is significant when we're talking first name, last name, email address, potentially phone number. That's not taking up a lot of bits.
it's not, and uh, I think I'm missing a little bit of context about it, which I can't find readily available. But I kind of wonder, like, this kind of goes back to, remember we said the cost of doing business,
Yeah.
right? Hundreds of millions of dollars in cybercrime, the cost of doing business, and maybe this is to the point where, like, oh, 800 megabytes, come on, like, we're not even going to write a news story on this. That's such little data that got taken.
And also maybe because Mailchimp is used by small to maybe medium-sized businesses, definitely small businesses. So maybe, your large players in cybersecurity are just like, no, this is not a big deal. This isn't a problem. No, it's a problem. This could have a much more profound impact on a business that's small than on a large-scale business, wholesale. So yeah, I mean, this could. I'm not going
I
to say
mean, they
it will
got
put people out
14
of
million
business, but yeah,
users.
14 million.
Yeah, 14 million active users, 61 billion in annual revenue. I mean, that's not tiny, right? So yeah, I agree. Like, let's not get complacent about the cybercrime and the size of the data stolen.
I fully agree with that statement. Let's not get complacent. I like that. I like that a lot. Let's see. What do we got next? We got Palo Alto Networks is to acquire CyberArk. Wow, I was not expecting that. Palo Alto has announced its intent to acquire CyberArk, a leader in identity security, for $20 billion. This merger could reshape the landscape of identity and access management and privileged access security. This matters because two major players consider consolidating means tighter integration between network security and identity management. It also signals the growing importance of IMA in modern cybersecurity strategies. Yeah, I mean, this is I'm going to keep fingers crossed and say hope net positive with Palo Alto joining CyberArk, or right vice versa, CyberArk joining Palo Alto. Just tighter integrating a stack of cybersecurity that is really prolific throughout the industry. So could be a good thing. Cowboy.
Yeah.
That's that digital whiskey, folks.
Are yeah. Well, what am I in the Sandlot? Mergers are, they can be good, they can be bad. In this case, I agree with you. I think it's, and I'm hoping it's going to be positive. This isn't something where like they're going to suddenly corner the market, right? And prices are going to shoot up and all that stuff. I think this is bringing together two solid companies that do pretty good work, and I'm hoping that really just continues and they go off of each other as a force enhancement, not suddenly some type of weird internal strife, which we have seen before in other mergers of certain companies. One that shall not be named, that likes to buy companies and then ruin them.
Yeah. Well, like you said, mergers, there could be a double-edged sword here. There could also be, maybe I hope not, but I hope they're getting expertise as well as platform, right? That's always better. But if they're only going for one or the other, then that'll be known pretty shortly after acquisition and merger is completed. But yeah, who knows, right? I mean, I hope that no matter what, IMA is more tightly integrated into cyber offerings than it is already. But this is a great way to get there, is by bringing this level of expertise closer and in house. So my fingers are crossed that it's going to be a good thing. Yeah,
Cyber Cowboy is on board.
I'm on board. Okay, our next story, it gets a little personal and in the romance department, Cowboy, but not for you. The dating app T suffers a second major data leak. So for those that know, T is a woman-only dating site, and it has disabled its messaging feature after hackers leaked over 1 million private messages and 72,000 images. This is the second breach in recent months, raising serious concerns about data security practices. This matters because dating apps are a place where sensitive personal data is just that's all it is. That it is a gold mine of your information, and attackers know it. Repeated breaches erode user trust and highlight the risks of poor app security in niche platforms. Wow. Yeah, so dating apps are still a thing. I know that they've fallen off a lot recently, but I know they're still very much a thing. And man, just the amount of information they harvest off of you to help you find the person you're looking for. If an attacker's right once, it's just a bonanza of I'm going to take whatever I want and know everything about whomever's here. That's kind of nightmarish.
Yeah, and it's actually more than a dating app. They actually list it themselves as a dating safety app. So it's not just for meeting people, it's where they can go on and talk about like men they're dating, women they're dating, whoever they're dating. It's kind of like a different way to have it's called T, right? It's I don't want to call it gossip because I think that has a negative annotation, but a way to talk. And you're right. You say things on there that you clearly don't want out there, and they should be private, and you kind of have that sensitivity of that stuff possibly being released out there. I mean, potentially career ending, for sometimes for good reasons, sometimes for less of a good reason, but yeah, that's And then the second one in recent, I hope T is sitting down and seriously evaluating what they're doing and how they're doing it. There's already been a class action lawsuit for it.
Wow.
Because they're saying they were probably failed to properly secure and safeguard. So maybe they're taking a shot in the dark. Maybe they had some insight into what they're doing, but obviously they need to sit back and look at how they're securing their data.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just, you're right. Like if it's a platform for safe, friendly discussion, not to use the G word, right?
Mm.
And that's getting breached out. That's like it's reputation damage wholesale for those individuals. And 72,000 images, I'm sure those are not all headshots, right? So just wow. I really do. I hope you're right. I hope they're sitting down in their meeting space and going, how do we fix this? Because that's just I wouldn't use their app anymore.
Yeah, I mean, happens once.
Not that Professor has used T, but I'm simply saying, like, if I was, I wouldn't be using it anymore.
Yeah, happens once, shame on them. Happens twice, shame on me, right? So T hopefully needs to do some serious inward looking. And yes, hopefully the Professor is not on T. It's for the ladies only. So
yeah, well, nobody knows you're a dog on the internet, so it's always possible. But no, definitely staying above board. Sorry. All right, so our next story, have to tread a little lightly here, both of us. So let's just mind our P's and Q's on this one, Cowboy.
Oh, that's where I excel. So let's do it.
There you go. U.S. spy satellite agency investigates contracting site incident. So the U.S. National Reconnaissance Office confirmed an incident affecting a website used by intelligence community contractors. The details right now are sparse, but law enforcement is investigating potential compromise or misuse. So this matters because even peripheral systems that are tied into the national security infrastructure can be high-value targets, right? This incident underscores the importance of securing third-party and contract portals. So this is not the first time I've heard about it. I know this is not the first time Cowboy has heard about it, where a third-party vendor just is the leaky part of the whole equation, right? And if their site infrastructure was compromised and it was tied into, let's just say, the Nipper net as opposed to anything else, that's still pretty heinous for lots of reasons. Cowboy?
Yeah, absolutely. And a little bit more information. So it was involving their unclassified acquisition research center website. So
the contracting database, for those that don't know, like that's where all the public contracting information that companies can go and see like what the government is asking for and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I've said it before, right? Clear defense contractors are the number one targeted entity for espionage and infiltration involving government goodies, if you will. And so not surprised here that they're targeting it. Law enforcement is involved, so I would be shocked if we get any real information, but I'm definitely interested to see what does get released, because sometimes we get some goodness put out of it.
So why do you all right, let's dive on that particular thought for a second. What reasons do you think CDCs are one of the most targeted aspects when it comes to national security information?
It is because there are the federal government and state governments, right? Small, medium.
Your mic cut out for you there. Could you repeat what you were saying?
Yes, absolutely. So there are all sizes of businesses that do work for and with the government, right? Small, medium, and large. And smalls especially, and then some mediums don't have the cybersecurity in place to adequately protect the information regarding the work they're doing with the government. And so, yeah, they are targeted specifically for that reason. And government websites that, because they have to showcase the contracts that are out there, and you can go in and see all these small, tiny companies, right, doing value classified work, and they're being targeted. And the federal government still doesn't have any sort of requirements in place that says, look, if you're going to do business with us, you need to protect your stuff. They kind of tried. There was a little bit done under the Biden administration, right? And the double-edged sword with that, right? How do you help small businesses succeed when you levy those kind of requirements on them? Cowboy had some ideas. He had floated them to the government, but too low in the totem pole there. But that's the big reason. They don't have the defenses in place to go up against highly skilled state actors.
Well, I would even suggest that it's not even just infrastructure or ability, right? A lot of times your smaller or mid-sized companies end up with personnel that are not prepared for the level of scrutiny that they would be under from an attacker, from a malicious entity, right? And that is not to say that the companies aren't training their individuals, they're not helping them, they're not providing them the tools. All of that can be happening. But if you come from a purely private sector mindset and have never been in that world, the way you handle data, the way you share information, it is a massive culture shock to who you are as a person, as an individual, and how you operate. So I think that could also be playing into some of that. Thoughts?
Yeah, 100%. These are topics that we've covered on other shows when we've talked about training, when we've talked about the weak link that is the 18-year-old help desk kid on the getting the 2 a.m. call from who he thinks is a C-suite individual demanding he gives him his password, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, we could get into that now, or I was going to save that for after the last story, but I showed you today how easy that is.
Oh yeah, and it's only getting easier.
Oh yeah. We'll get into that right after our last story, folks, because a little fun tidbit on a related topic here on how hard it's going to get real fast for communication authentication. All right, so our last story.
Real quick, Professor, real quick. Yeah. I want to throw this out. So a little bit more information on that. So allegedly, they were targeted by Chinese hackers, and one of the programs called Digital Hammer was compromised. So it is a highly sensitive program. It does compile cutting-edge technologies for human intelligence gathering, surveillance, and reconnaissance operations and counterintelligence. And it focuses on threat from Chinese intelligence and information operations. So just a little tidbit about one of the programs that they know and released that was at least partially compromised to this attack.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, live to fight another day, I guess. Let's hope that we can actually figure out what happened and mitigate it. Okay. Our last story. The UK's age verification law puts X, formerly Twitter, under scrutiny. So the UK's digital verification law has exposed shortcomings in X's age check systems. Critics argue the platform's lax enforcement could violate compliance and expose minors to harmful content. Why does this matter? Well, regulatory pressure is mounting globally for platforms to enforce age restrictions and content moderation. Non-compliance could lead to fines or bans. Yeah. So everyone's going to want your ID so that they can prove what age you are on their platform. And my God, the nightmare I see for personally identifiable information and the leaks that are going to happen here within, I would say, the next 6 months as this stuff happens is just going to be astounding. Now, that is not to say The professor doesn't want people to be protected from content they shouldn't be seeing. But we got to figure out a better way than just giving every company out there our PII. That's just personal side as far as I'm concerned, digitally. Cowboy?
Yeah, that's a tough road to walk, right? Say I am fully on board with everything that you said. I'm having flashbacks to 94, 95 when I'm going to a website and it's like, are you 18? And I'm like, sure am. Right. And that's all it took, clicking yes, because they're like, hey, you said you were. How do you do that even in today's technological world, right? Without giving up that information? Do you have school ID, driver's license? How are you going to verify that user's data in a safe and secure way?
Forget the safe, just the secure. I'm terrified by the fact that these companies, so let's just go with like 5 off the top of my head, right? X, Facebook, Nintendo,
Xbox,
Apple. All right.
Yeah.
Those are 5 companies that are likely going to be asking for age verification of your content. You are likely going to give them your ID. How much information, front and back, of a picture of your ID is now going to be stored on someone else's server that you have to hope they're going to keep secure? And let's just say, I don't know, we have been doing the season 3 here of the podcast now for 18 weeks, Cowboy. 18 weeks. There has not been a single week where we have not had the majority of something happened somewhere and somebody lost data news. Do you think it's going to get any better with every company having a copy of your ID? I don't.
All that is a target, a very specific target. The bad actors are going to look for right now. They know it's a thing, and they're gonna go hunting. Sometimes they're fishing in the dark, right? They want to get in and they want to find stuff, and you got to look around. What you're going after. That's worse.
Back in the early 2010s or late 09s or aughts, whatever we call them, there was work being done in the Obama administration to have a secure identities, a trusted identities type of framework that was put out so that people could be verified in a trusted way, where you would have like a third-party clearinghouse that was responsible for verifying information, and not every company ever will be housing data. I mean, it's a couple decades now, or going on a couple decades out of date, but maybe it's something to look at, because I'm terrified by every company anywhere having to have a copy of my ID. That simply, look, professor's information down to my fingerprints has already been exposed 3 times thanks to the Uncle Sam. So I'm not really worried about the professor himself with his personal identifiable information. That's gone. But for Joe User, Mr. Normal, like, they have no chance. Their information is going to be compromised. And what are they going to get? A little more identity theft protection? I am not happy with this as a solution space. We have to do better. We just have to.
There's got to be I agree, a better, safer, secure way to verify age in order to protect the youth. At the end of the day, that's what it's for. If you're over 18, you can pretty much view whatever you want because you're an adult. But under 18, there's so much bad stuff right out there on the internet. Not like when we were younger and internet was young. There was still bad stuff, but not at the level of today. And when I think about my cyber offspring, right, I don't want them in that level of stuff. But how do I protect them, right?
Yeah. Intent good, execution going to be horrifically bad. That's the way I feel about this.
Wait, are you talking about PKI or?
No, it's not even PKI. The intention here is noble, right? We want to be able to protect people from content that is harmful. I'm on board with that. Me having to take a photograph of my ID front and back and send it to any company that's requiring it now is a bad idea.
Yeah.
Is simply just a terrible idea. And that's what's going to happen. And those those are going to become treasure troves for attackers. It is a terrible state that we're going to. There needs to be a better solution than the law just racing to say thou must know the age of your users. Okay, give them a way to do it in a secure manner where not every company has to have their own separate copy, because not every company is going to protect it the same way.
Right. And for those that didn't get my PKI joke, good in theory, fails in implementation.
Fair enough. It went past me too. I apologize. All right. So, little tidbit from the professor here. So, I've mentioned the home lab a few times before. I got fully implemented and was playing with it a couple weeks back, but today fully implemented and dialed in. A piece of software out there, free, called Chatterbox. Now, for those that don't know what text to speech is, it's basically the computer saying whatever words you want it to say. Chatterbox is, again, 100% free and open source, and can voice clone anyone's voice with 10 seconds or less of audio of that voice. And if you don't think that's something that's important, one, and you're probably listening to the Rod podcast then, or maybe the right one, but two, commercial companies are making money wholesale off of this. And one of them out there is a major company that many have heard of, probably in the circle, called 11 Labs. They're one of their biggest items is producing audio, voice audio for use in lots of different platforms, right? So today I sent a little fun thing over to Cowboy earlier today to get a little chuckle, and I did it after it was set up. It was surprisingly easy. I will even admit to everyone on this podcast, part of my voice at a certain point in time in the podcast is not the professor. I'm just not going to tell anybody when. See if you can figure that out. Cowboy, thoughts?
I mean, we've talked about deep fakes before, right? And now here it is for anyone and everyone. 10 seconds. Hopefully our listeners can take time to appreciate just how little information, voice information, that is to be able to take and replicate to have full on speech, right? Arguably, I think you would need, because just think about our podcast, the inflection in our voice, the ups, the downs, the changes, if we stumble over one of our words, right? Because that never happens. All of that, really, you need to build your model to get a really effective voice. But if you can get a 90% solution in 10 seconds or less.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I won't say which voice I used today, folks, for that I sent to Cowboy, but what do you think, Cowboy? The voice I used and in the context of the information I sent, I would say 90% easily.
Yeah, 90%. Solid 90%. If I wasn't like paying attention and half-ass listening, I never would have known.
Yeah, and the other thing is too, it's less likely, the voice clone is less likely to work on a person who knows the individual. I didn't say it's completely unlikely, because I've tested this on a few people and they didn't realize that it wasn't me at first. They knew something wasn't right, but they couldn't tell. Right. And that's problematic. Now go into your security levels or voice authentication systems. Are they going to be able to tell? Is the human on the other end of a line that's asking for a voice confirmation going to be able to tell that that's not you? I don't think so. They don't know you well enough. There is definitely not enough in industry at this point today to really have that real time check against that voice and say, yes, that's real. No, that's AI in pretend mode. That's going to be real problematic, more so than the discussion of deepfakes have been for the past decade. It's too easy now.
Got to have that two-factor authentication, right? At a minimum, be like, okay, I just sent your phone a number, right? What is it? But if anyone out there uses voice security, do some testing and let us know.
Yeah,
let us know your success and fail rates.
Would love some data on this because, like I said, Professor is using some of his voice just to make his production time a little bit faster, and the fact that I can now pretty much I could mimic anybody. I could mimic Cowboy's voice if I wanted to. I don't think I would, but I could.
And I don't think anybody wants that. You know, I don't know about my voice. I got a face made for radio, so thank God I'm an avatar. But you know, as you've been doing this and we've been talking about it, like kind of sometimes thinking like maybe we should do a whole show, right? In AI and see who notices.
Yeah. I think that might be a thing that we do at some point. I think we could script it all out and just let the AI talk to itself. And if it's dialed in correctly, I think it would be hard pressed for you to be able to tell the difference. Not impossible, but very difficult. Cowboy, what else do you have for us this evening?
All right, to close out, your newsletter's open rate just spiked. Huzzah! Too bad it was a Trojan payload. I am Cyber Cowboy. Stay frosty, my friends.
And I'm the Professor of Cyber Risk. That's all the news for this week, and we'll talk again soon. If you like this podcast, share it with your colleagues and friends. Your support is how we are able to continue to make this content. Thank you.